K-State Culturally is virtual programming centered on celebrating, uplifting, and educating the Wildcat community through the lens of communities of color connected or affiliated with Kansas State University. All right. Well, I am Jessica Elmore with K-State Culturally, and I'm super excited to be a part of this conversation. Jordan, she just finished a fantastic interview with Mako and Nabeeha, and this is just kind of like after, just in that conversation. And I wanted to make sure that we folded in Jordan and her experience and Mako and Nabeeha, and really just talk, especially as women of color, women who have Asian descent, just really wanting to talk about the experience and how that is at Kansas State University. We know that there are some wonderful things happening on K-State's campus, and I just couldn't miss an opportunity to be able to talk to these wonderful ladies. Some of the different backgrounds that I just want to kind of bring up, because I know I've had a chance to talk with, each one, but like, with Jordan, we've talked about transracial adoptions and adoptees and that unique experience that so I definitely want you to chat about that and how you've allowed that to play a part in your K-State experience and the leadership that you have. Mako of, biracial descent and, with a Black father and your Japanese mother, and just that melding and the way that you have embraced K-State and how you fought for multiracial, communities and identities. And then Nabeeha, of course, the globe trotter around, Pakistani descent, but being raised in Mexico, and just your global your travels and just the impact that you're making. I feel that we just can't miss an opportunity just to talk about, what is that? How does that part of your identity, that cultural, engagement, that active community experience, how did that translate to your development at K-State, and what does that look like, in your life after college and soon to be after college, Jordan? So who would like to go first?
You know what? I'll take
You're
a
gonna go,
stab at that.
Mako? Okay, girl, let's go, Mako.
No, yeah. So I'll be honest. Being biracial, I don't think I saw a lot of that at K-State. Maybe because biracial people are so different. Even though if you're like there's another person on campus who was Black and Japanese. I may not have known that because we might not have looked similar to each other. And so I struggled with my identity in college, to be frank.
I love it. Yes.
I just didn't know, like, okay, do I go to Black student union meetings? Do I go to the Asian American student union meetings? I don't look Asian. I had this kind of internal struggle of, am I Black enough to go to Black student union meetings? Are they going to see me and say, well, she doesn't look like she's Black? And so it was nothing that anybody ever said to me. It was just this internal struggle of not really seeing how I fit in racially, I guess, at the institution. So that was something that I kind of thought about, and was like, well, do I take Japanese like classes and try to learn Japanese and try to discover that part of my culture? So yeah, it was something that was never discussed. So I'm when I think about other biracial students that might be going through the same things that I went through, I've done some research on like biracial identity, as an undergraduate student, especially at like predominantly white institutions. So there is a struggle there, and there needs to be more conversations around that and spaces to have those conversations and to talk about that dichotomy between, races, and kind of how do you feel like you see where you fit in and feel comfortable on campus. Because I definitely had a hard time adjusting to that at K-State. And so, yeah, I speak to that to say that, hopefully we can create more of those spaces on campus.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes.
Jordan, do you want to share your experience?
Yeah, I can talk a bit. So, as a transracial adoptee from China, I kind of, I look Asian, so there's no way to like really hide it. So I was like wholeheartedly like welcomed into like the Asian American Student Union, but I still had this like issue with like you know, kind of understanding the nuances of the community. And so because of that, I kind of like threw myself into like self-education, and like through there, I went to this conference for the Midwest Asian American Student Union. And I remember going as a freshman, and it was like at Michigan. And I walked into the room and there were just hundreds of like other Asian American people in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the Midwest. Cause like I'm from Texas and I'm like from a community that's like, you know, there's tons of minorities. And I was so used to being in that background. So it was like a huge culture shock to come to K-State and like there's like not many people that look like me, not many other minorities or people of color around. So when I went to this conference, my eyes were opened and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many people, and there's workshops that I attended that kind of like made me realize that there's so much more to being Asian American than just like how you look and where you come from and what kind of food you eat, you know, all of the very surface level interactions. And through that, I got involved with a bunch of other people, and we founded the Midwest Chinese American Student Association. And so we're creating like our own community for the whole Midwest through there. And so I think I'm still on this journey to figuring out like how my identity works into my college sphere and like kind of how do I fit it into my personal and professional life. But I would say that K-State has been a huge stepping stone in like letting me discover what I want to do and who I am.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Love it.
I feel like I'm very good company when I share this, that the most exhausting question that I can get is, where are you from? How do you answer that? Because again, you know, an immigrant, daughter of immigrants, Pakistani, grew up in Mexico, these strong cultural connections to so many cultures. It's just a hard question to answer, because I kind of feel like I'm from so many different places. And I will tell you, the experience at K-State was both beautiful and exhausting for that reason, for things that Mako and Jordan have highlighted, because I could find pieces of me in different organizations and different activities. So I'll give you an example. I was president of the International Coordinating Council, right? I was president of HALO. I was president or vice president of the Pakistani Student Association. I was part of must have had something going on with the Indian Student Association. And then I had all these other service organization, leadership organization, which I know all of you are also involved in, peppered in between that. So there were so many aspects of who I am as Nabeeha that had to be split up across a whole set of organizations and experiences, so I could kind of create that sense of belonging to a university, because there wasn't one place, and maybe that was for the better, right? But the hard part also was that I didn't fit in with the stereotype. I didn't fit in with the stereotype of what a Pakistani woman or Muslim woman should be and look like, or what people thought. It was HALO before, but what a Latina or Latinx person should look like. And so you kind of defied stereotypes at every step of the way. And that was okay, but it does take a toll on you. I'm not going to lie about it. It does. Because at every moment, someone's turning around saying, wait, that's not quite what I expected. And then they embrace you. But the going in is like, all right, I'm going to have to explain myself.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you everyone for sharing. So my final question really is it's some advice. So if you could share maybe a thought or two about students who are coming from the various backgrounds that you have identify with, of how to maybe find the sense of belonging, or what are some things that you would want to share with them that, on the back end now that you are, as you reflect, and then for people like me and on the outside public, what should we be thinking about when we are dealing with layering on assumptions on people? What are some thoughts that you would like to share with us as a community?
I would say don't have assumptions. You know, I'll tell you, it's been funny. You know, I kind of laugh off everything that might come across as unfortunate to others, but you know, there were comments sometimes that were made in Spanish about me, not knowing that I spoke Spanish, right? And they weren't, you know, mean or malicious or anything like that, but you assume that because I am a brown woman and I look South Asian, that I don't speak your language or that I don't belong fully. So my number one thing would be, don't make the assumptions and see people for who they are and learn about people for who they are. And let's not try and box people in. Because I think if we change that way of thinking and that way of acting, it's also a release for those of us on the other end, where we are not desperately trying to find which box do I fit into. And after decades of going through this, realizing, hey, guess what? It's okay. I don't fit in a box. And that is my power, that I actually don't.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I help more students think like that. Like, I don't have to fit in a box. I think a lot of that, you know, mindset was from when just filling out like forms that ask about your race. And at the time you could only mark one. And I'm like, but I'm not one. I'm multiple. So why can't I just mark 2 boxes? And it's like, nope, you can only mark 1. So I think that's what kind of trapped me, like literally like box, like a check box, like I was literally trapped. And so, yeah, as soon as Dr. Elmore, you posed that question, I was like, yeah, just don't have the assumptions. Just go in like thinking like, okay, I'm gonna learn, you know, maybe I'm gonna learn something new about this person, and you just never know. So I know it's really hard just given, you know, the systems and the structures we're in, and, you know, what we've been brought up to learn and the stereotypes about certain groups of people. And so it's really hard to push you have to be really intentional about pushing those biases aside and being really conscious about your biases and the spaces you're going into. So that's what I would say for those individuals, is just being more conscious about that. And for students, like for me, like I wish I would have just said, well, I don't feel like there's an organization that fits me, so I should just start one. I don't know how many times I heard like, hey, all you need is 5 students and an advisor. And I'm like, why didn't I just do that? So finding, you know, because there's probably other students like me. And so let's get a group together and start our own organization like Jordan did. So I think as a student, you have a lot of power, you have a lot of influence. And so, you know, if you don't see something that, you know, fits you, then just create it yourself. I mean, K-State really provides that opportunity for you to create those spaces and to build different opportunities on campus. It's not set like this is it, this is all we have. They let students come in and really like adjust it and make it their own. So yeah, if you're in that space where you're like, I don't feel like there's a space for me, create it. You can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely echo all of those thoughts. I would just say, like, for students that aren't sure where to start, you know, when you're walking around the welcome fair or activities carnivals and you don't know where to go or where you belong, just jump in, just join, just go to the first meeting, just sit in that room and just absorb like a sponge everything that's happening, and then focus on going to the next one and becoming involved.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I value each and every one of you, and I'm so thankful that you said yes to being a part of this K-State Culturally experience. I know I will be chatting with each of you more as we plan out more activities, because there's just so many layers to you that I know that the entire K-State community could definitely benefit from. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.